Former President Bill Clinton campaigned in Benton County at the John Q. Hammons Convention Center to try to help get out the vote for Democratic candidates.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's good to be here. I love Benton County. The first time I ever appeared in court as a young lawyer, I had a Benton County judge, Bill Enfield, in Madison County, Arkansas. Charlie Wharton over there was the county judge. And then we had no advance voting. We only had absentee voting. And you couldn't absentee vote unless you had a good reason. So the Democrats had won, and the Republicans said we didn't have good reasons. So we were over there giving all of our reasons. And we had one guy who was an employee of the Game and Fish Commission whose reason was he had to take the state's only bear trap to Stone County on Election Day. But here's the one I remember. There was a guy from Tulsa who voted absentee for the Democrat in Madison County in elections. The only problem was he'd lived in Tulsa for 20 years. And here's why I'm telling you the story, and they had to throw his vote out. But he was the most touching guy. I'll never forget this guy. He's sitting there in a witness box in this little courthouse in Huntsville. And he said, yeah, I've lived there 20 years, but he said, you don't understand. I don't know anything about their local politics. I'm from Arkansas. And he said, as soon as I earn my retirement, I'm coming home. I don't belong anywhere else. I don't even know how to vote anywhere else. Now, we're all laughing about that because Benton County's been probably our fastest growing county, and there are people here from everywhere. But the same principle applies. There's something special about living here, isn't there? Yeah. And we value personal relations. And it's become a much more interesting place. There's a lot more diversity in this crowd than there would have been if we'd had this rally 30 years ago. There's more diversity by age, by gender, by race, by religion. It's a very interesting thing. But it all still works. And this is the point I want to make. The reason it all still works is because of the way we treat each other. And because we try to listen to one another, and because we think everybody deserves a chance to work their way up and live their own dreams, and their kids do. And something I'm more interested in now than ever, their grandkids do. And so I'm glad to be here for Mark Pryor and for Mike Ross and for Nate Steele and Susan Inman and our local candidates, my longtime friend Tom McClure and Brinsley Graham and Mark Robertson, our candidate for Land Commissioner, Leanne Williams. Thank you all for running. But here's what I want to tell you. My life mostly now is not in politics, except, and I tried to help Hillary, and I tried to do what I can to support my friends. But I do work. I do a lot of public work with my foundation. And here's what I want you to know that I've learned that still applies to Benton County and Arkansas. We sell the world's least expensive, high-quality AIDS medicine in 70 countries. We have operations in Africa and in Asia, both East Asia and Southeast Asia, in Ukraine, where they're having so much trouble now. We run the AIDS program. We have big economic programs for farmers in Latin America and do work in the Caribbean, and we do energy work in Australia. I work all over the world. Here's what I know is true everywhere. Every place where people work together and treat each other right, good things are happening. Every place people think the only thing that matters are their differences, and they don't have any time for anybody that doesn't already agree with them, good things are not happening. Every place there's cooperation, good things happen. Every place there's conflicts, there are problems. The world belongs to people who work together. And the reason, I really agree with the issues that have been raised here by Mike Ross and by Senator Pryor, because this economy is coming back, and not just in Benton County. You just look around, it's taken every country in the world for the last 150 years an average of 10 years to get over a major financial crisis. That is 10 years just to get back the jobs they lost. We just did it in 6. We just finished. America did. After the financial crisis, the deficit in America got so bad that it was 10% of our annual income. This year, it's going to be 3% of our annual income, going down dramatically. We have 700,000 new manufacturing jobs. America's created 10 million new jobs, more than Europe and Japan put together, and they got a lot more people than we do, almost 3 times as many. We're coming back, but not everybody has felt it yet. So our job in Arkansas and around the country is to create an opportunity for everyone so we can have shared prosperity, and we have to have shared responsibilities. We got to do this together. Therefore, we need leaders who will do that. I saw a survey the other day that said that Governor Beebe had the highest approval rating in Arkansas of any governor in any state in the United States. Now, this is interesting. So, that private option healthcare deal required 75% of both houses, which means he had to get all the Democrats and more than half the Republicans. Which means that people got together and they had their differences and arguments, and then they did what was right for the state. Because it gave more than 200,000 people and working families and kids access to health care, but it helped 100% of our people. You want proof? I just saw that it is estimated that this coming year in Arkansas, health insurance premiums, on average, will go down by 2%. Down for everybody. Now, by contrast, in our neighboring state of Louisiana, where they're fighting all the time, and it's my way or the highway, where the governor and the legislature said, we're not going to touch anything that comes from Washington. The same insurance companies have asked for an 18.5% increase in premium. Why is that? Because they're people who are working on very limited incomes, don't have any health insurance for themselves or their kids. So they go to the hospital later, they're sicker, they cost more, and they don't have any money. So the hospitals have to get all that money by charging everybody else more for insurance. This is not rocket science. When we work together and figure out how to do the thing that makes the most sense, we get the best results. So Arkansas ranks number 1 in the percentage of people who have gotten health insurance in the last couple of years. Arkansas ranks above the national average in the percentage of its high school graduates. The national average is 80. We're at 84. Our economy is growing and diversifying like crazy, and America is in a great place to come back. We're now the #1 oil and gas producer in the world. We have a 100-year supply of natural gas. We have increased by 3-fold the amount of electricity we generate from windmills and by 10-fold the amount we get from solar panels. And we have just scratched the surface of what we can do. We got 700,000 more manufacturing jobs in this country. We're producing cars at the most rapid rate in 8 years. We are coming back, but we don't have everybody feeling it yet. That's why the minimum wage is important. That's why equal pay for women is important. That's why Mike Ross's proposal to beef up the technical as well as the academic programs in our community colleges and tie them closely to employers is important. That's why Mark Pryor's vote to lower the interest rates on student loans, not raise them, and to help people refinance them in a way they can afford is important. There are 230,000 people living in this state who have put in some time in an Arkansas institution of higher education and not gotten a degree. Why? A huge number of them had to drop out for financial reasons. You know it as well as I did. They couldn't pay, and they couldn't borrow any more money, and they were terrified that they couldn't pay it back if they did. So the president of the University of Arkansas system has offered a new approach that will allow a lot of those folks to now, at lower cost, get the rest of their credits online. That's a very good thing. But the point I'm making is, we know that if we educate and train people for the future, they'll be able to get good jobs. We know that the prosperity you have in Benton County was generated by a lot of the big companies that are here, but it can now be anywhere in America. But we got to have universal broadband download speeds that are rapid. We've got to make sure that people in rural areas and small towns can get a hold of them. These require us to do things together. And Mark Pryor and Mike Ross both served in Congress, and they proved they were together politicians, not divide politicians. When Mike Ross was a House member, he was in the Blue Dog Caucus, who often got criticized by the most liberal Democrats because they said, we'll vote with the Republicans to try to get more money to invest in our future and to bring this deficit down and get our kids out of debt. He did that, and he did it whether there was a Republican or a Democrat in the White House. When Mark Pryor was in the Senate and President Bush was in office, he was one of 7 Democrats who worked with 7 Republicans to change the rules for nominating federal judges because he thought it was crazy if a person gets elected president, they get to nominate a judge. And if the person is not a crook or crazy, it isn't right to drag it out to kingdom come. So they made this agreement. And guess what? As a result, President Bush got a higher percentage of his people nominated than either his successor or me. Why? Because we didn't have as many senators on the other side that were together politicians. These are just facts, and they matter. That farm bill is really important to Arkansas. 36% of our per capita income is in agriculture. There were a lot of good things in that farm bill. Senator Pryor's opponent was the only person in our delegation who voted against that bill. And he voted against it, he said, because they wouldn't take the food stamp portion of the bill out of it. So he could cut it, even though where he wanted to cut it would have only hurt working people. Low-income working people who were killed by this recession and who wanted to be able to feed their children and stay in the workplace even though they hardly had any money. Well, now the enrollment in food stamps way down because the economy's coming back. This was not rocket science. You didn't have a bunch of people trying to beat that program dry. We had a terrible collapse of this economy. Mark Pryor was right. His opponent was wrong. So that's what this election's about. It's really not about Republicans and Democrats. You know, I get help for what I do around the world from Democrats, Republicans, Independents. Half the time I don't even know what political party the people who are supporting me are in. I just say, here's the end in mind, let's figure out how to get there. And we work it out. This country was organized by founders who wanted us to have different philosophies, who wanted us to have different opinions, who wanted us to have vigorous debates, but who wanted us in the end to use all those differences to listen to each other, learn from each other, and make a decision and get the show on the road. The biggest problem we have today, in Washington, D.C. is we can't get the show on the road because people think their differences are all that matters. We are all in this together. We're going to rise or fall together. We want inclusive government, not exclusive government. One of the reasons that our friends in Iraq are having trouble again today is that they tried to run an exclusive, not an inclusive government. One of the reasons my great friend Nelson Mandela, who died almost a year ago today, was a successful president of South Africa is he was a poster child for inclusive government. He actually put the leaders of the political parties who put him in prison for 27 years in his cabinet. And he called me one night, we were talking about something, and he said, "Oh, they're giving me the daylights down here." I said, "Who? The Afrikaners?" He said, "No, my own people." I said, "Why?" He said, "They say, Madiba, you got 63% of the vote. You had 19 opponents, and you're going to put these slugs that," he said, "Fine, bring your prisoners to the inauguration, but put these people in the government? You got to be kidding me. They put you in prison. Why are you doing it?" I said, "What'd you say?" He said, "I said, we just voted for the first time in 300 years. Can we run anything all by ourselves? The banks, the economy, the police force, the military, is there anything we can do all by ourselves? No, but together we can do anything. Together we can do anything." So, look, when you strip it down to the basics, politics is about what are you going to do and how are you going to do it. Mark Pryor and Mike Ross will do the right things. They will improve the wage structure with this minimum wage increase and with a push for more equal pay for women. They will improve the range of employment opportunities by making it easier to finance college and easier to get non-college technical education that's important. And they'll do it in the right way by having their door open to everybody. The other guys, they have records in Congress too. You can check them, don't take my word for it. They weren't together politicians. They were much more my way or the highway. Who needs the other side? Whether we like it or not, we need each other. Whether we like it or not, we're going up or down together. And I'm telling you, I'm not running for anything. But I have seen a lot of things, both as president and as governor, and since then working all over the world. Every single solitary place on earth where people work, the way Arkansas has worked the last 8 years, the way Mark Pryor served in the Senate, the way Mike Ross served in the House and will serve as governor, good things are happening. You owe it to yourself to do this. You owe it to yourself to do this. Now, the only other thing I want to say is, all the polls you've seen showing them ahead and behind are all right. How could they all be right? Because they just count right of the people they poll. What the debate's about is who's going to show up, just like they said. If you and your friends and the people that want a together state instead of a divided state show up, they'll win. They'll win handily. They'll defy the experts. I've looked at the numbers. It'll be fine. It just depends on how much you care. It just depends on how much you care. This is a really special place. There's a reason that guy went to Tulsa for 20 years and kept trying to vote in Madison County. And I could tell you 1,000 stories like that. And if you came here last month, or you grew up here and your great-grandparents are here, sooner or later you'll just feel it. You'll just feel it. The greatest gift you could give to the future is to honor the legacy of together politics, to re-elect Mark Pryor and elect Mike Ross governor. Thank you. God bless you.